Thank you. It's brilliant to be here. Just before we start this quick 10-minute presentation of this project ReGo, I'd love to show you, there's 2 films to be showcased throughout here. So just to give you a flavour of what's to come, this is an excerpt from ReGo, the pilot version, which was known as Cut, from 2020. And so it'd be great to showcase this first. Thank you.
Through this project, we are tackling the issue of knife crime. We're actually taking knives out of the streets and we are turning them into buttons and rivets to make a bespoke collection of jeans. And at the end, we will also organize a charity auction in order to sell the jeans. And with the funding raised, we will support a social enterprise with ongoing activities to fund further opportunities for young people in the fashion industry.
We brought together a small group of young people who had all been impacted by knife crime in various different ways. Their role really was to come together to work with the creatives in this project.
Very often in the news, we talk about negativity. I really believe in taking that negativity, creating awareness, turning into positive action.
It can inspire people to change their perceptions on how they view the world and how they view young people.
I think that nurturing children and young people is the single most important role for any society.
So, hello everyone, it's fantastic to be here again. My name's Stephanie Barker-Fry. I am the Knowledge Exchange Lead for the School of Media and Communication, but really Project ReGo is very much the project of Dr. Francesco Mazzarella, who is not here for the very reason we said earlier. He's actually at the launch and probably incredibly busy with a million things going on at the moment. So I'm sort of representing him, but I was actually involved in the initial stages. So ReGo means quite simply to rethink your ego, go again and again, and a continuous process of change in both yourself and in society. But just to give a bit of contextualization about where this project came from. So as you can see here, it's quite detailed and it's incredibly complex. This is an example of a sort of systems mapping process developed from research around the issue of knife crime. And that's a very real issue for young people in London, but actually not exclusive to London at all. It's a real global issue. And research has indicated to us so far that in order to really sort of tackle systemic change and try to make change happen, we have to adopt very much a public health approach to this. And that really means that to disrupt some of these factors and complexities highlighted here, that needs a multi-agency sort of attitude through collaboration. So working directly with the communities that are impacted at every stage of the process. So as part of our commitment as London College of Fashion and Centre for Sustainable Fashion, all the stakeholders involved, to our move next year to East London in Stratford, we have a real responsibility to work with young people in our local communities, our local schools, and through the sort of facilitation of platforms like Catalyst and Communities, which you saw on that video. So before ReGo, which is launching tonight, and a little bit more on that later, the pilot version was called Cut. And this is where I was involved with students from the School of Media and Communication. So Cut launched in 2020 in a really sort of a very intense year in terms of the pandemic, in terms of incredible sort of activist movements that were taking place at the time. And the idea was to bring together stakeholders from Waltham Forest Council, which is also where I happen to live, students from the Year 1 PR and Branding course at London College of Fashion, Black Horse Lane Atelier, which are a denim manufacturer and company retailer operating in Walthamstow, and Catalyst and Communities. And they are a youth social initiative that work with young people in the area who've been impacted by knife crime in some capacity. So essentially this was to create what you would call, I guess, a social enterprise. So through all the knives that they collated in the borough through an initiative called Knife Safe, 270 knives were used to create the rivets and buttons and zippers in 150 pairs of jeans. So we wanted to raise money, but also raise awareness around knife crime. I think more importantly, give young people in the area skills, apprenticeships, training to facilitate and familiarise themselves with fashion as a potential enterprise or future career opportunity. So that was taking place, and Francesca was obviously leading on that. We were having some discussions, and then at the same time I was looking at some research which very much correlated to my discipline, and at the time I was teaching on the fashion PR and communication course, and this was about adopting new approaches to public relations. And that was because, you know, so much was happening socially and culturally that we felt that this sort of archaic idea as a PR, as a gatekeeper, really needed to change. And we wanted to look at the PR as a way of building bridges between brands and communities, facilitating conversations with outreach champions, perhaps underrepresented people, and actively seek out voices for the next generation. So to do that, we really needed to bring in the voices of our students, but also with the local communities. And that's how we worked on a knowledge exchange model. So knowledge exchange is a way that it's quite common ground in the UK, how we work with third parties, whether that's public, private, NGOs, charities, individuals, co-creating insights between that party and our students to generate more positive outcomes that will go back into our communities or our local environment. So in this instance, we decided that we would transform a 10-week curriculum so that students coming straight into university, looking at these disciplines, would look at them from a really sort of transformative impact and look at PR and branding as a tool for igniting social change within the fashion industry and beyond. So we got them to respond to a live brief set by Francesco to create communication campaigns for the launch. And so this was the initial question that they researched and responded to. How can Generation Z harness the strength of authentic PR strategies in order to shift common perceptions of socio-cultural issues through the lens of fashion activism? And actually this was done through some, for us, particularly radical pedagogic styles. We brought in a whole new roster of guest speakers, workshops. Obviously this was all done online in the pandemic. And we really got to grips with the nuances and factors driving very specific niche areas in London. I mean, not so much for me, but certainly for some of our students who were studying in China at the time, for example. So it was really interesting seeing how we had a very global perspective on quite a specific issue happening right in our doorstep. See, these were some of the amazing campaigns. And actually after that we had an opportunity to hold a round table and speak to the students directly, and it was really enlightening because we actually found that a lot of students have been impacted by knife crime internationally. Certainly wasn't unique to London. Some of the students have grown up in Waltham Forest and they've been able to bring their own lived experience into this project, and I think that had a real benefit on their experience as well as the students and young people we were trying to address. So fast forward from 2020 to now and to this very exciting moment as this launches tonight, and really this is Francesca's operation and some brilliant information on the website, but in collaboration with the Centre for Sustainable Fashion and Catalyst in Communities, ReGo has now expanded well beyond that pilot remit to work with the 4 neighbouring boroughs, Waltham Forest, Newham, Tower Hamlets and Hackney are 4 neighbouring boroughs for the new campus, that is. And the idea that has expanded to work with local fashion brands and providing way more opportunities for young people to build new capabilities, gain employment and skills in that area. So we took from CUT all the key learnings, and it's developed into essentially a framework that can be used moving forward for other diverse opportunities. And it'd be great to show the film, please. Thank you.
ReGo means rethink your ego, go again and again on a continuous process of change in yourself and in society. It is a strategic design project that connects creative across different disciplines and uses the power of fashion, co-creation and storytelling to shift the prevailing narrative around youth violence. Through that, we are turning metal from knives through water jet and laser engraving into fashion items in collaboration with local fashion brands.
So with Project ReGo, we have two parallel processes happening. We've got the creative process where people are learning the fashion skills. We've also got our mindset coaching process running alongside it. They work hand in hand because if you can develop the right mindset, you find it much easier to pick up new skills. You find it much easier to stretch beyond your present level of knowledge into new levels of knowledge.
So the workshops were delivered by some of our partnering brands, and they were really engaging sessions where the young people could learn new skills, but also understand new topics. So it's all about fashion activism, it's about engagement, it's about education, but it's also about learning how to speak your voice and how to communicate that through fashion.
I think it's important because we all have our own way of kind of expressing ourselves through fashion, and so I think having access to an industry that does that professionally, we can all be inspired by something and then express our personalities through that.
Some of the young people, alongside the training, they also are undertaking work experiences with fashion brands.
Thank you. To really enhance the opportunity here to work with students as well, and for students to have the opportunity to understand what's actually going on in local communities. This was then taken to the next level, to the MA Collaborative Challenge, which brought together students across the whole of London College of Fashion in this really dynamic collaborative unit, where they were briefed with how can we use fashion activism to create new designs, social enterprise models, and narratives against knife crime and youth violence. So rather than just going off and responding to creating campaigns, design and research, they were actually put into groups with the young people from the neighbouring boroughs, facilitated by consultants and by outreach champions as well, to create some real responses to this, to develop ReGo into a really bona fide brand as we'll see it today. So that was an incredible opportunity for, again, in-depth co-creation. And this was supported by masterclasses looking into specifically how to activate change within resilient communities and really unraveling the meaning of fashion. So ultimately, the outcome for all the parties involved has been tremendous, because as you can see here, we've had the final campaign was shot by students from the School of Media and Communication, so hair and makeup, photography, stylists. These are the young people that were involved in the actual process of creation that have come from the neighbouring boroughs in East London, and they're going to be featured on billboards all across those boroughs as of the 23rd of May, which is exciting. Obviously, they'll all be at the launch tonight with live performances, spoken word, music, and the clothes themselves and the accessories and the jewellery will all be able to, everyone, the public will be able to loan them and rent them through a rental platform, Loanhood. So it's got a fantastic ongoing narrative as well. So just to sort of reflect, this project in its many iterations, it's really presented the positive impact that adopting quite radical and disruptive pedagogy can have upon both the student, but also the community, or, you know, this could be developed for future clients and communities. And I think for all the numerous accomplishments it's had over the past 2 years, probably the most important to highlight is the opportunity to foster closer connections with the local communities in which we engage. And to do that, we can start to tackle some systemic change, because there's a much better understanding, awareness and collaboration, not just between ourselves as academics, but between the students, which I think is really important to be able to bring your own lived experience forward. And so just so you're aware, in terms of what's happening next, all the proceeds raised will go towards supporting ongoing education and employment opportunities for young people in fashion. Just to reiterate, this is a framework. It's been developed. It had enormous amount of investment from numerous stakeholders and people involved. So we'd love to see what this could develop in the future. Once we've finished working with the local communities here, this could obviously be transformative for other communities worldwide. Thank you. And yes, please please go and have a look at the website for all the incredible work that Francesco's been doing.
Thank you
very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
The introduction to this really impactful work. And please send our greetings from this event to Francesco.
Will do. Thank you.